Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. To follow us on Instagram, go to No Name Music Cast Podcast. To send us an email, it's nonamemusiccast@gmail.com. And to visit our website, go to nonamemusiccast.com. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here we are. We are back. Now, No Name Music Cast listeners, you will have noticed there's been no disruption in service, but in reality, Joy and I took a few weeks off. I had some trips. Joy had some things that she was doing. So we've had about 3 weeks, would you say, away from podcasting?
Yeah, maybe 2.5. Pretty close.
Something like that. It seems a while, but it seems no time at all. But we're happy to be back here recording on a Sunday night. And I'd just like to exclusively reveal the best airline to fly is Scandinavian Airlines. You
missed it. We could have, we should have been recording, Tim, and put that as like a cold extra. We had a very long discussion about air flights before we got on. So.
Yeah, I've flown on Scandinavian many, many times, and it is a really good airline. Virgin Atlantic is also really good, but I don't know, my Scandinavian flights were always positive.
I almost always just end up on Lufthansa, which is the German airline. That's like the main one that comes out of like the port, I think, of like near us, like if you go to like international port, like, and then I have been on Air France, which was my best experience, I will say. And then it's always just like Delta or maybe American Airlines, Tim. I don't have a lot of extensive outside of that.
Yeah, the only airline that I make a point of not flying on is British Airways, because I've flown on them a few times and I wasn't terribly impressed. And living right by Heathrow Airport, whenever there's any disruption at Heathrow, the first headline you're in is British Airways cancelled 420 flights. So I normally give them a wide berth if I can help it.
I avoid Spirit Airline. Yeah. I've had Charlie has flown Spirit Airline from here to Salt Lake City a few times. And there's a reason why they're the cheapest, Tim. There's a reason why they're the cheapest.
Yeah, there's an airline in the UK called Ryanair or EasyJet.
I've seen that name before. I know what you're talking about.
Super cheap, but like you have to pay for you want a cup of water on the flight. Yeah, that'd be £2.99, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, Charlie, I think he wore like 2 layers of clothing on the plane just so he didn't have to pack more than what was under his seat. And he was only going to be there for like, his grandfather's funeral. He was only there for like 2 days.
Oh, crikey.
But yeah, it was like, I think $250 for like both ways, Tim, like $250 both ways from here to Salt Lake City. You get how cheap that is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we flew Spirit to Vegas one time, and it was about that each return.
Yeah. It was very cheap because he decided to pay it on the drop of a dime to go to his grandfather's funeral, and it got him there. But so they landed in Denver and they got taxied in, and it went on forever. And whenever you're sitting there waiting to be taxied in and the heat, it's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. Charlie's very sensitive to the heat. So then he gets off, and I don't know why he's like this. He's in downtown Denver. He has a layover till the next morning, right, Tim? Mm-hmm. That's why it's $250 as well. His layover was a whole 24 hours. But, so he got a hotel for the night and was just going to stay in Denver until the next morning. Cool. Well, I don't know why he didn't just call an Uber. I don't know why he didn't just call a Lyft, because he was so long taxiing. The last shuttle from the one from the airport to his hotel, which only a few miles down the road, was gone. They stopped shuttling after like 11 or whatever. He walked him. It's because he's like, I didn't want to pay for an Uber or a Lyft. I'm like, this is the situation where you pay for an Uber.
Absolutely. This is not something you commute every week. This is a once thing that you have to do. You're going to pay $50, $60 for that. Just do it. Just do it.
And I was like, he said it started pouring rain. He was basically in like the not side of town. And I was like, this is the perfect. I still to this day have no clue, Tim, why I don't know if he was just delirious or what, but he walked
Well,
three
there we are.
miles from the Denver airport to his hotel at 1 a.m.
Well, there we are. He was getting his steps in.
Anyway, so yes, guys, this is the conversation that was happening before the episode. So let's get back on track. But yeah. And
Okay.
now we don't fly Spirit.
There we are. Okay. Well, I have a few music news items before we get into your news that you have, and it's your topic as too. So, whilst we've been away, it's been a very sad time for the world of music. We have lost a number of notable artists in the time that we've been away and not recording. Probably the biggest one of the lot, the biggest loss was Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. He died. He was 82 years old. And, a huge loss. Now, he hasn't actively been a part of the Beach Boys for some time because he'd been suffering with dementia, though I think he'd still continued to write music and be involved in music in a certain way. But certainly the active touring band of the Beach Boys that doesn't really contain any of the Beach Boys, he was not a part of that. But, such an iconic artist and such a loss to the world of music.
Well, and the Beach Boys were what defies that wall of sound, the complex harmonies, the orchestras, the vocal layering. And Brian Wilson was a big factor in that because he wrote so much of their music.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you look at the output of the Beach Boys. I mean, he was so integral to that.
And they, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, and I mean, I pulled up a few performance videos of course, on David Letterman's program. And I mean, what a singer and what a performer.
Yeah. And from what I've heard, he's a very complex person. I've done a little bit of research about him when we've talked about like those episodes, like he lived in that town we talked about in California, Tim, that everybody in the 70s listened to, and different things like that. And they said I just heard people talk about him that one minute he was very like in your face, and the next minute he was very laid back. He just like a very complex person. So like a very interesting person that I think if you've never like researched his life, he'd be somebody that would be fun to get into. Not that has anything to do with the podcast, but that's what I've kind of gathered.
Absolutely. In addition to Brian Wilson, we also lost Mick Ralphs. Now, Mick Ralphs was a famous guitarist and songwriter, famously a member of the band Bad Company. A founding member of the band Bad Company. Even when Paul Rodgers was not a part of Bad Company, Mick Ralphs was still a part of that band. So sadly, we had to say goodbye to Mick Ralphs at the age of 81.
I know. It just felt like, in like 2017, when everybody was kind of passing away in music, I was like, we can't have that again.
No, we certainly don't want that. And then, of course, one other noticeable or notable death, shall we say, Sly Stone. I mean, he was such an iconic funk musician and frontman, fronted Sly and the Family Stone, and he was around the same age. He was 82, and we lost him. And again, such a big loss for the world of music.
Another person that, like, if you go and look at their story, like if you're into like documentaries and you like people who are complex, Sly from Sly and the Family Stone has a very large history. And he's just so influential, especially in like the kind of funk genre.
Absolutely.
Yep. But sorry to see that. But as Tim would say, rock in peace.
Yeah, rock in peace, sirs. You left a great legacy behind.
Yep. All right. Did you have anything else, Tim, or would you like me to take it from here?
Well, that's all I have. I understand you've got some items, and then it's your topic.
I do. I have one item, and it's really not news. It's mostly just a laugh because this is a person Tim and I have talked about on this podcast. And if there was ever an article that defined this person, it is this. 80s iconic singer cancels show last minute as travel-weary band can barely see. It's Morrissey. That's the headline. So Morrissey canceled his concert in Stockholm, Sweden after stating he has zero music industry support. I don't even know what that means, but just how whiny this whole article is defines him. The concert would have been held on June 23rd, according to Morrissey's announcement, which he made, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. He said, the pain at not reaching Stockholm this week is horrific for the band and the crew. I know it's impossible for people to understand that we dream of Stockholm, and I'm not even going to try to say the rest of this. There's a list of names there, but you get the idea. But there's no financial support from imaginary record labels to get us into such places. He said, Morrissey added in the last 7 days, they traveled to 6 countries, and they were travel weary beyond belief, and we can barely see at this point. I don't know.
I think he's just being dramatic. I'm not a fan of Morrissey. I was indifferent to Morrissey until he gave a interview where he put some viewpoints forward, which are not very cool in 2025. And he taught sort of a lot of hardcore fans were turned off Morrissey.
Yep.
Now, I think he still has a fan base out there and people that like him despite his comments. But that said, what he's saying is correct. I mean, he is a low to mid-level artist at this point. He's not a Foo Fighters. He's not a Taylor Swift. He's not a Def Leppard. He's not.
I don't even know if you went out on the street and said it to 6 people, if you would get 50% that knew who he was.
He's a niche artist, but niche artists are out there and touring. But he's right that he probably doesn't have any record company support because record companies are not making any money off his back catalog. I mean, he might be making a little bit off streaming, but that probably accounts for a few $1,000s here and there. But, the days of your record company bankrolling your tour, and then you have all these huge riders, and then you have first-class hotels and limousines and all this stuff, those days have gone. That is completely done, unless you are Taylor Swift, Foo Fighters, Metallica, etc.
But my problem with it is, well, first of all, I just thought the reason, if you've never listened to Morrissey's music, it's all very melodramatic. And that's why Tim got the joke. I say this article is very dramatic. But I still think before you book your tour dates, though, Tim, you have to take into account how much money you have.
Yeah, absolutely. You would have an agent or an accountant or something who would work out the logistics of whether it's feasible, whether you're going to break even.
Not a few days before, yeah.
Are you even going to bankroll it because you have a film coming out or a TV show coming out and something that you want to promote, or from that perspective? I mean, it just shows shoddy business acumen is what it shows. And then be all Morrissey and whine about it.
Well, I didn't even read to you them. Hold on. We prayed, just the fact that you said that's going to make you laugh. This is a quote. Quote, we pray to God that someone somewhere can help us reach Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, and Denmark, where we have thousands upon thousands of friends, yet absolutely zero music industry support. No label will release our music. No radio will play our music, yet our tickets sell sensationally. What does that tell you about the state of art in 2025?
Well, one thing I would say to Morrissey, all those countries that he wants to visit, you could travel on Scandinavian Airlines. It would take you to all of those, and it would it would literally be first class.
Bob, okay, back full circle. Good job, Tim. But you were him just being so exhausted and just so. It would be one thing if he just said, "Yeah, we don't have the money." Just say it, Tim.
Yeah, but it's whiny Morrissey.
Well, anyway, that's the whole. I just really wanted to laugh about that because I saw the headline, Tim, when I was just Googling music news and coming up with my episode. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I could have wrote this I was like, are we sure AI didn't write this?
Well, all I would say, my final statement on Morrissey, is that Vic Reeves in the early 90s had a show called Big Night Out, and one of his characters was Morrissey the Consumer Monkey, who is a monkey puppet that had a head that looked like Morrissey that gave ridiculous consumer advice. I thought it was surreal and hilarious. Morrissey hated it, actively hated it. And that's all you need to know about Morrissey.
Of course. All right. Yeah, he doesn't come off as a guy who can take a joke. But anyway.
No.
All right. With that being said, it is my episode. I'm surprised we haven't done this episode. I was I told Tim that a t-shirt inspired this episode. I bought a few new old band t-shirts, and I got one from Billy Joel.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do a Billy Joel episode. So I got a We Didn't Start the Fire t-shirt from I got off of eBay from one of his 80s concerts. Anyway, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background history about him, just kind of the basics, some facts. And then I picked 10 songs to talk about. I tried to do maybe not the most obscure, but maybe not the giant hits everybody knows, somewhere's in the middle. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. Tim will know you'll know these songs.
Yeah.
And with that being said, for those who don't know, Billy Joel is often referred to as the Piano Man. He's one of the best-selling music artists of all time, with over 150 million records sold globally. He was born in the Bronx, raised in Long Island, and he kind of I don't really think he has one genre that he does, and this is he blends rock, pop, jazz, classical, and blues. But he definitely has a wide variety of genres he has performed and done. Um, and he's notoriously known as having very high music accolades as far as like arranging music, which is why he can do all those different genres. It started out that, the song The Piano Man is about him. He was a struggling lounge musician, piano player in a bar in 1973 when he wrote The Piano Man. From then, he released a lot of more kind of string and guitar based things that are more 60s and 70s. Though he has always played the piano, he did kind of like dabble in that. What's interesting about him, though, and what people I don't think realize is he only ever technically had one number one hit. That was like the blue. Like he was one of those people who had like a few that were like, you know what I mean, 2, 3, 4. So you heard them a lot. But his only number one hit was I Just Had It and I Lost It. Well, you guys aren't going to know it either because I can't find it. Oh, yeah, it's still Rock and Roll.
Oh, okay.
But that was his only actual number one hit on the Billboard 100. It's still a great song. And he's very known as being someone that people look at for his songwriting skills. Because he tells a story with all of his music. That's like his kind of songwriting things. So they're talking about different artists like Ben Folds, Sarah Bareilles, and even like hip hop artists, like that kind of storytelling narrative approach is how they look at music because of Billy Joel. And then he has not released an album since 1993, but he is, as of last year, still touring and selling massive world stadiums and that whole thing at Madison Square Garden that would have cost you a liver or a kidney to go to.
Absolutely. Now, I can tell you, I almost saw Billy Joel in 1998. It was on the 6th of June, 1998. Now, he did was scheduled to do a concert at Wembley Stadium. It was Elton John and Billy Joel on their face-to-face tour. And I was working at Nationwide Building Society, which is like a credit union in England. And there's a lady who works there. And then she came out to me like on a Friday morning and she said, you around tomorrow? I said, yeah, I've got nothing on. Why, what's up? And she said, my boyfriend is sick and can't go and see Elton John tomorrow. Do you want to go? And I was like, yes.
Right.
So we went to Wembley Stadium. She got really good seats. They were like 4 or 5 rows from the front, seated at Wembley Stadium. But
probably
of course,
cost $15 at that point.
Well, I mean, they were probably $100 tickets, or £100 tickets, I would imagine, at that point in 1998. But now they're absolutely absurd how much that would cost. But yeah, but said Billy Joel pulled out, and Elton John played the whole 3-hour show himself. But I was that close to seeing Billy Joel.
That's funny because I've always told you guys I almost saw him once. And it was because, and I didn't get to, well, kind of. I feel like I had an opportunity, but Molly did not take the opportunity. So him and Elton John were actually performing in Roanoke. This is probably, I don't know, 2011, maybe. And they're very expensive. Elton John and Billy Joel tickets, you might as well just sell your soul. But so even at that point, they were very expensive. So, but Molly used to work at Rainbow Riders, which is like the daycare for all the rich people at Blacksburg. And so, and I say this with true, like they would come in and like when they would have spring break, Molly would talk about, the kids would be like, we're going to Aspen this summer or whatever, like kids like that. So their parents, one of the parents of the kids was like, yeah, we got Billy Joel tickets. They were like, right in the front, Tim, like the most amount of money you could have spent. And she offered them to Molly for a few $100 and Molly told her no. And I said, Molly, you should have took them and I would have paid you for them.
Exactly.
Like, why? Why would you do such a thing? So every time Tim says that, I find that ironic because I feel like I was this close. But anyway, so with that being said, I'm just going to go into just a song. And then I'll say what album, what year it came out, and just a little bit of facts about it. So the first one is probably, actually, I'm pretty sure it is my favorite Billy Joel song, which is why it's number one. And that is from River of Dreams in 1993, ironically, his last album, Keeping the Faith.
Yeah, this is obviously a later Billy Joel hit. I mean, it's probably a radio hit, I'm assuming. It was a single and all that sort of good stuff. Is that? Yeah, I think I have a CD copy of that album because some of those later Billy Joel albums are ones that are classic thrift shop fodder. They're like, it must have been Britannia Music Club and Columbia House and all those get 10 CDs for a penny things. Those were the albums I think that were available, which are in all these thrift shops around here. But no,
Oh yeah.
it's still an absolutely fantastic song. It's funny that Billy Joel lost his mojo after 93 and never wrote any more music. It's like the well has been drained and there's nothing else in there. It's very bizarre.
He's always so funny though, because there's like a thing where when he's talking, he talks like him and Elton John have that weird kind of nippy relationship back and forth to begin with. But like Elton John keeps talking about how he wants to keep putting out music, and Billy Joel says they've already heard enough of me. Like that back and forth has always been his kind of wit. So I think that's just how he is as a person.
Yeah, but I suppose if you go and see any legacy artist, whether it be Elton John, Billy Joel, whoever, you're going to go along to their concert and they're probably going to have a token album or EP or something out, and they're going to play two songs from it, three songs max, and nobody's going to know that stuff, and really no one's going to want to hear it. And then the rest of the set is going to be hit after hit after hit after hit. And I suppose Billy Joel, he's just cut that new music piece out, and he just goes along and just plays all the hits.
But yeah, that kind of just plays into his like showmanship thing. And I think you're right. When you hear him talk about it, he's just kind of like, meh, I've done enough.
Yeah, I mean, even the Queen, quote unquote, Queen touring band with Adam Lambert singing. As I said many times, I'm not a fan of that combination. But they've made no effort to release any music, not even on a token level. You go and see them, and it's greatest hits 1 and 2, and that's all you're going to hear.
Well, I mean, maybe they know that that's what the majority of the people want. I'm not sure. The one that got me was when I was at can't remember what the concert was, Virginia Tech, but it was a band that was kind of like a mid-level band. And there was most people there knew like 2 songs, right? Mm-hmm. And they went down the rabbit hole of doing like a CD from beginning to end, Tim, and like very long like extras and drum rolls on top of people only knowing 2 of their songs. It was the most miserable I've ever been at a concert because everybody was like, great. Do you know what I'm talking about though? Like, and they did like that thing where you don't, no song ever ended. They just went straight through it like with an interlude.
Yeah.
And then it was very music jazzy, and that just people are like, just play that one song we know. But anyway, so that might be what he's going for. All right. So the next one is a song I hadn't heard in a while. And I went to look it up because I'd always wondered if it was a real place or not. And I still haven't gotten a confirm. So Zanzibar is the song.
Okay.
It's from the album 52nd Street in 1978. Now, I know Zanzibar is a country, but the song is about a restaurant or a bar named Zanzibar.
It's very possible. I mean, if you like, let me do a Goog right now.
I was trying to figure it out before the episode. I never got a clear answer.
Restaurant.
I could have asked AI. I should have asked AI.
I mean, how many restaurants do you want? There's a Zanzibar in Cleveland. There's a Zanzibar bar and cuisine in Atlanta. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's more than you could ever try and even track.
Okay, well, I guess it's a real bar. Now, I always think about that one song that Jack Black sings where he yells Zanzibar. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's talking about the restaurant or the country either, but anyway.
I think it's the Tenacious D song that you are referencing is Heard Gently. Yep. And I believe he's talking about the country of Zanzibar, not the Zanzibar reference in this Billy Joel song.
Yes, I think you are correct on that one, Tim. Anyway, so and my little fun fact about Keeping the Faith was he himself has described this as this was the end of his pop career, which is interesting because that was the last album he did, right? And this was to leave his fans with a message of hope. And that's why he wrote this on his final album.
There we go.
And I do think you're right, Tim. This is the one that's like, it's like him standing in front of like a gray kind of background and a white lettering. It says like River of Dreams across the top. And there might be like things floating above his head that looks like clouds, or maybe like he's asleep. I can't remember. But this album is definitely in a lot of gifts, like thrift stores,
thrift shops and what have you. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what this one looks like. All right. So, we were talking about Zanzibar. I went back to Keeping the Faith.
I mean, it's a great album, Joy. It's hard not to keep talking about it.
I never said my facts on the last one. All right. My facts on Zanzibar is, let's see here. It's one of the few rock songs to include a bebop trumpet solo. which Joel, loves jazz and likes to play homage to. So
there we are. I mean, early in his career, 70s, he's still finding his feet. Sometimes some of those early albums are not quite so formulaic as later songs.
that's true. I don't know what a bebop trumpet solo though is. Like I know what a trumpet solo is, but I wonder what makes it bebop.
Well, it's bebop jazz. It's like the kind of jazz music that Penn Jillette plays at the beginning of his Penn and Teller show in Vegas. Well, because you've seen that.
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I've definitely not seen it all the way through. But I guess I never knew that bebop was a subgenre of jazz, but that makes more sense. All right. Well, now that I mixed up two songs and gave you guys facts on both of them at the end, we'll move to our third song. So this is Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, which is early in his career. It's from The Stranger in 1979.
Yeah. Now, this is probably my favorite Billy Joel song. It is an absolute magnum opus. I mean, it's almost his version of Bohemian Rhapsody, sort of, because the song goes through different movements, and it's like a whole story. It's absolutely
7 minutes long.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Now, I wonder if it's another one of them ones like Bohemian Rhapsody, where when it was given to the record company, they said, "No, we can't play this. It's no good. It's not a single. It's not. It's longer than 3 minutes. No one's ever going to play that on the radio." And there we are. We have Scenes from an Italian Restaurant.
Makes sense, though. I mean, and for those who don't know, it's like a multi-part story about a couple who are like high school sweethearts. They fall into suburban monotony and so on and so forth. It's very jazzy, piano-y, Broadway style type thing. Billy Joel said he modeled, this is my fun fact for this. I'm putting it with the right song this time, guys. Billy said he modeled the song after side 2 epics by the Beatles. It's basically his A Day in the Life. The opening wine and cheese bit is based on a real Italian joint near Carnegie Hall called Fontana Day something. I'm not going to try to say it, guys. Apparently there's an Italian restaurant by Carnegie Hall. You could look that up later.
Yeah.
But that's what the little wine and cheese opening was. Is he actually saw people, and they based it on that.
There we are. Now, the interesting thing about Billy Joel as well, in his songwriting, generally, he never writes songs for himself. What he does is he imagines another artist and then writes a song for that person, even though he performs it himself. So sometimes it's fun when you hear a Billy Joel song. Who was his inspiration? Who did he write that song for? And I wonder, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, which artist he had in mind when he wrote that song.
We just said, I think he said it the Beatles.
Well, he said that he was sort of inspired by the Beatles, but it doesn't sound Beatles-esque. You have a song.
That's true.
You have a song. I don't know if it's on your list, but you have a song like Big Shot.
It is on my list.
Okay. Well, I'll mention it now, but you can get onto the facts later. Like Big Shot was written with Mick Jagger in mind.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Interesting, though. Yeah, because it doesn't sound like a Beatles song. You're right on that. Besides the fact that it's long, there are some long ones.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I don't know. We could probably figure it out. Or it's always interesting, though, when you hear him talk about his songwriting, because Tim's right. The way he kind of like his storytelling is always very third person. So, and I wonder if that's, he calls himself an entertainer. That's so he could play that character when he's doing that song. So it's very, very interesting. All right. So the next one is my other, if I had to go top 2, I said keep the faith. My other one that is my big favorite is River of Dreams, which is obviously from River of Dreams in 1993, which is also on his final album.
Yeah. Now, River of Dreams, again, was a huge pop hit at the time. What year did you say that came out?
1993.
Yeah. So it's I would say it's dated is not the word, but the production is very much of the era. But I think he was channeling Paul Simon's Graceland, and maybe he wrote this one for Paul Simon because it has that kind of African backing vocal thing going on.
Yeah, there's very gospel inspired too.
Yeah, like Paul Simon was working with a lot of African artists at the time, and then that's how Graceland came about. And and this song has the same thing. It's not so much gospel in the background; it's more kind of like African influenced music with the backing vocals in that. So I wonder whether he was sort of channeling Graceland era Paul Simon when he wrote it.
I mean, it very well could be because and the whole album kind of has that thing. And it's weird we were talking about that. I was trying to describe the album to you because I know you said you see it at a lot of thrift stores. The fact on this one, my little trivia fact is Billy's then wife was Chrissy Brinkley. She painted the album cover.
Oh, interesting.
It says, despite being a personal album, this was number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was his last major chart smash. Which makes sense if we just said that was his final album. And of course, I'm pretty sure, and there might have been a third one, but Keep the Faith and River Dreams were the 2 singles on this album. So that's why they're the pretty obvious ones.
Absolutely. Now, I think we should also note about Billy Joel's. He's been with a number of ladies over the years.
Yeah, that's true.
And he mostly likes supermodels. That seems to be his type.
I mean, he knows what he wants. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, at this point in time, he's with Christy Brinkley. I was like, now it made me wonder if she paints. You know what I mean? Like, is that like a normal thing she does, or did she just happen to paint this album cover? To be fair, though, it is one that stands out in my mind because it's got like, it's gray and it's like people and there's different colors. Like, it's a cool album cover. But
I mean, maybe she's an excellent artist. I have no idea.
I don't either.
Well, here we go. We have a whole internet here. Let's have a look. Christy
Brinkley paintings. Let's see.
Brinkley painting. Certainly looking at the Google, doing a Goog. She has a number of paintings. Yeah. I mean,
studying art, and she was an illustrator. There
you go. She was such a talented artist.
There you go. And everybody learned that new today. Maybe we need to go look at some of her art. I feel bad that I never knew that. That's something you guys all learned. If you ever go on Jeopardy and you win, it was Christy Brinkley's painting.
Well, that's like John Mellencamp is also an excellent artist. When I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there was an entire exhibition of his art, fine art that he painted. So you never know what these people are up to.
John Travolta is also a pilot.
I did know that. And he's had the way he's had his house built, it has a runway that leads up to his house.
Yep. I'm trying to think of some. I don't know why. That was the only other one I could think of, a random fact about a person. We've given you guys all the ones about Brian May. He basically solves all the world problems.
Well, I mean, stereo photography, astronomy, saving animals. I mean, the rock star thing is only a small part.
It really is in the grand scheme of things. But anyway, all right. So we'll talk about the song Tim was talking about a minute ago. This is Big Shot. It is from the 52nd Street album in 1978. And obviously it's the sarcastic, self-absorbed socialite, a.k.a. Mick Jagger. Aggressive, edgy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the story goes is that Billy Joel and Mick Jagger went out to dinner, and I think he was with Christy Brinkley. Who can say? But that's not important to the story.
Bianca Jagger was there too, apparently.
Yeah, and Bianca Jagger, or a friend who was with Mick Jagger, or a lady friend who was Mick Jagger, anyhow, there was somebody there who was completely full of themselves, completely absorbed in the Mick Jagger celebrity world when they probably shouldn't have been absorbed in the Mick Jagger celebrity world. And Billy Joel was particularly entertained by this meeting. Like, he's like, what are you talking about? You've known Mick Jagger for 5 minutes. And then he wrote this song.
And he also says the song is wrote from the perspective of a woman yelling at her partner to put a twist in it.
Ah, well there you go.
And yeah, I've heard it was Bianca Jagger. I guess I've never could confirm or deny. I probably want to think it is Bianca Jagger because my favorite story about her was when Studio 54 was still like there. You know, I was only there for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, Studio 54 only existed for a few weeks before they probably got shut down because there was all kinds of drugs, all kinds of things happening. They never got a liquor license. They were funneling money. There was a lot. But anyway, so with that being said, my favorite story, though, is the one of Bianca Jagger riding the horse into Studio 54, the big white horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've never seen that picture, it would make sense that Big Shot is written about her. I can't confirm or deny. I've never spoken to Billy Joel in person, but I mean, it seems accurate too.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it's interesting how the inspiration takes him to write these songs.
It is. And this is all allegedly, so be it Tim, don't get sued. Allegedly, right? That's what you have to say.
Of course.
It was allegedly.
That's what the National Enquirer says.
Or Daily Mail, like I was talking
Oh,
about before we
crikey,
started.
Daily Mail.
I was telling Tim before we started, I find it funny, and this is your PSA, guys, about your passports. Every summer, I get a Daily Mail headline without I could write it. It'll be something along the lines of, it's always like a UK or European like somebody who's not American because it's Daily Mail, and it's going, did you know that you can't travel if your passport expires in 6 months? Couple stuck on cruise. Every summer, there is some couple in the world who does not realize that your passport expires in 6 months. They can't travel and they get stuck, and the Daily Mail does an article on it.
Well, what I would say is that has personally affected people who listen to this podcast. So I think we will leave it there.
That's true. That's true. So, but anyway, that's what we were talking about before we got started. All right. So the next one is My Life, which is also from 52nd Street in 1978. And basically, it's just an anthem about, self-determination. It's my life, that kind of thing. And it's also a #3 Billboard chart hit, but still did not make it to #1.
Yeah, it surprises that this one didn't get to #1. I mean, this is a very strong song, a very popular Billy Joel song. But I think the thing is that, but certainly back in the 70s and even the 80s to some degree, people were buying records. People were buying 7-inch singles, or people were buying later on cassette singles, CD singles, 12-inch singles. But certainly in the 70s, people would be buying lots of 7-inch singles. And there was a lot of competition. And if you'd have looked in the charts when that was when that got to #3, and you saw what was #2 and #1, they would have been big songs, absolutely big songs. Now, I mean, the charts are not really a thing. I mean, they bring into streaming and ringtones or whatever they do these days.
That's true. I couldn't tell you what the charts look like, to be honest.
No, if My Life came out now, it would probably be an immediate #1.
I would think so, but if you listen to Billy Joel, he says we've heard you and we've heard him enough, and we don't need to hear him anymore. But I will say, so how was he in like Britain comparably to America? Because from here, he's definitely a huge artist, but I don't know how it comparably sold on both sides.
I mean, he was popular enough to do a co-headline gig with Elton John, even though he didn't show up for it. I think he probably. He probably has more kudos in the US.
A little snarky, Tim.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was so funny. I mean, to be fair, though, he did do some with, that's funny. Tim got me with that one, guys. But he did do some touring with them. But I think it's funny if you ever hear them talk to each other, because they're quite sassy to each other. I don't know if they actually like each other.
Well, maybe they're co-headlining gigs were just a business arrangement. Who can honestly say? I mean, as we know, Elton is a diva, and I get the sense that Elton isn't terribly easy to get on with. Look at the thing with Madonna. But I mean, Elton has made strides in later life to make up with a lot of people, and I think deep down Elton's a really good guy. But he is a massive diva. And as a result, he's probably hard to take, hard to deal with, etc., etc.
And from what I've gathered is, depending on what point in time you were in his life, you know what I mean, Tim? He was even more of a diva. Like when he openly talks about some of the stuff he did, and he's just like, I was terrible. Like I was a really bad person. And I'm like, good for you, because not a lot of artists will say that. We've talked many times about, there are so many artists that did a lot of bad things that people still hold them to weird pedestals.
Yeah, no, I mean, the whole of that Rocket Man film was effectively him saying that he was terrible for decades, and he was able to turn his life around.
Look at you, Elton John. I mean, and the other thing is I do think, and he's done a lot of good for charity work, and as terrible as he can be as far as a diva, I think for him, I want to believe all of his intentions are great.
I think so. I don't think
maybe not back in the day, but now.
No, I don't think he was necessarily mean to anyone back in the day. I just he was just maybe a little full of himself, and he was chemically enhanced, which doesn't necessarily make you think straight.
It's true. The other thing is that I think that with the Billy Joel, like him not showing up, not that this is what it's related to, but I honestly think when you said it was a marketing gimmick, of course it was. They're both piano players.
Yeah,
Pretty easy to see why they would put them together. They kind of have the same vibe where they like to put on a show. And a lot of piano players like them have talked about they do such big, larger than life things because it's hard to be a showman when you're sitting behind a piano and things of that nature. So,
absolutely.
I mean, it only makes sense. And then let's see here. All right. So our next song is Moving Out, parenthesis, Anthony's song, unparenthesis, which is from The Stranger, which is 1977.
Yeah, this is a an absolute classic Billy Joel song. Now, do you know the chart position of that song? Because again, you would think that would be a big number one hit, but it probably wasn't.
No, let's see though. Chart. As you said, we can give it a goog. Number 17.
Really?
He seemed to be one of those people that I swear it feels like everybody knows him, but he just never be. It just, I mean, I don't really, I mean, if you went down the road and you talked to 10 people, I want to say 6 to 7 of them would know this song at least.
I would think
Hopefully
so.
more, but depends on the age range too.
Yeah. And what is with the bit that's in brackets, Anthony's song? What is the history behind that?
So the name Anthony come from a real friend of Joel's. And he said the sudden room sound, and so Billy insisted on keeping the bike noise himself in it that happened in the background. That's all I could find out. Those are my 2 facts. So Anthony is a real friend of him, though.
Okay.
So, I don't know. He never really gave anything more, but just that it comes from a real friend. So I guess he really wanted to tell his friend this song is about you. It's Anthony's song.
Well, there we are. And one thing I do know, you said about bike noises. One thing that Billy Joel does, I think he's from New Jersey.
New York.
Where from?
New York.
Oh, yeah, New York, New Jersey, that kind of area. But they're close. He has a bike shop that he bankrolls. And it's like, they make custom bikes or repair bikes. And he likes motorcycles. It makes no money. He completely bankrolls it, and he pays the people very well.
Passion project.
Yeah, and people go in there, get bikes fixed or bikes customized and stuff like that. And of course, because he likes to once in a while go down and hang out with the guys in the bike shop, and that's why he bankrolls it for that reason.
Yep. He said, and apparently he's the one who actually makes the bike noise himself. So that makes sense. And they argued with him to keep it, and he said he wanted to keep it, and ultimately it was his decision, and so he kept it. Now Anthony's song is one that I have this stupid joke I think about, and I don't know why, Tim, but on Family Guy one time, Peter plays the radio, and it plays Daft Punk. But for some reason, he's calling it Anthony's song, and it's all around the world or whatever. And the other character starts yelling at him, "That is not Anthony's song. That's Daft Punk." And he goes, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, on Cacciatore Street." He's like, "No, that's literally Moving Out, Anthony's song." And there's like a bit going back and forth where he's trying to convince him that Anthony's song is playing when it's all around the world. And I don't know why. It's the stupidest little bit, but I laugh about it all the time because it sounds like what you could hear me and Charlie doing. Charlie will say something so random about music that makes no sense, and I'm like, no, that's not it. And he will argue with me about whatever it is. Like, I could totally see it being Daft Punk, and Charlie tried to convince me Billy Joel was on. So that little bit gets me every time.
Well, I mean, to be fair to Charlie, he could have listened to some mashup remix on YouTube that put the 2 pieces together. Because, I mean, I know you said Charlie had Sirius XM in his car, but I would assume the bulk of his music listening is Spotify, YouTube, or some variation thereof. So it's possible there could be some remix, and he's not as into music as you are, and he could maybe put those 2 artists together.
That's exactly what's happening. But it was just when I saw them do that comedy sketch, Tim. It's one of those that got me because it worked out so perfectly. Because I'm like, I've been in that frustration where I'm like, no, absolutely not. Anyway, so if you've never seen that bit, go on YouTube and look up Family Guy, and it's a good one. All right, so the next one is we're gonna go with Vienna, which is also, if I had to pick top 3, this would probably be number 3. And this is from The Stranger in 1977.
So the question I have for you, Joy, which is your favorite song? Vienna by Billy Joel, Vienna by Ultravox.
I have to go with Billy Joel. Sorry.
Do you know, I would have to go with Ultravox.
I have to. I don't know why. I have a very I don't know. It's just like a cult classic for me, almost in a way.
Yeah,
Did you
I mean,
know? Oh,
I
go ahead,
once
sorry.
went to Vienna, and this was a time when you could walk into a shop that sold CDs, and I bought a
Mhm.
best of Ultravox album, and because it had the song Vienna on it, and I bought it in Vienna, it was fantastic.
I mean, I probably would have done the same thing. But this one I always find interesting. One of the things that this is my little cool fact is Vienna had a massive resurgence with younger listeners.
Hmm.
And it's still one of the most top streamed songs of all time because it got
Interesting.
such a resurgence. And he personally calls it his favorite song that this and Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. I've heard him say both of those are like his two favorite songs that he's written. And I always thought it was interesting. Lindsay Lohan has a Vienna Waits for You tattoo.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but like I saw it on her once and she just like little manuscript. It says Vienna Waits for You with like dots. The reason though I think this song had a resurgence, and it doesn't say it on here, but in the end there was this movie called 13 going on 30. I don't know if you've ever seen like the graphics for it, but it's about somebody, a 13-year-old who wishes she was an adult and she becomes a 30-year-old. But in the end of it, it's Jennifer Gardner. The really sad, sappy part at the end of the thing, Vienna Waits for You, is what plays. And it's very iconic for people in my generation. And it was kind of like a cult classic movie. So I wonder if the resurgence came from that movie.
I mean, it could do. That's a film I've never heard of.
It's okay. I mean, to be fair, it's very what you think it would be when you hear 13 going on 30. But it's just one of those ones that, like, if you were my age, you would have seen it, if that makes sense. So I think
Do you
that's
know, I
probably why.
probably wouldn't have seen it because I haven't seen half the films that I was
Okay,
supposed to
well,
have seen.
you're a different case, Tim.
I mean, have I seen WrestleMania 5, 10 times? Yes. Have I
Probably.
seen films? Absolutely not.
That's fair. All right. But I mean, that Vienna is probably, I think it was, I was surprised what I was going to say, actually, Tim. I would have thought that Vienna would have been one of his, I wonder how it charted. Because I was just like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how Vienna chart position? I really want to know because, like, it's weird to me that some of these songs, oh, it made it to number two.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, wait, no, that's the Ultravox version. Hold on. Let me put his name in. Disappointments. Aw, his only made it to 47.
Oh, poor
Now I feel
lowly
bad.
Billy Joel.
It did remain on the chart for 6 days, though. That's so funny. Oh Lord. I think it was on the Stranger, but I do think it was originally released on Just the Way You Are on the B-side, and then he brought it back and put it on The Stranger, if I remember right. I do think it was on both albums too, so
Okay.
not that that really matters, but all right. So the next song we are gonna go with is one that once again is just such a large radio hit. You would thought, it was number one. It's She's Always a Woman.
Hmm.
My cool fact about it is that Billy wrote it about his then wife and manager, Elizabeth Weaver. I
Okay.
don't know why that matters, but so I don't know that she was a supermodel, but apparently she was his manager.
Okay. I think he moved on to supermodels later. I
Probably.
think as his money and means increased, his tastes changed, as it were.
Fair enough. Well, this was also on The Stranger from 1977. But yeah, it's kind of just, it's a very interesting song because it does paint a very distinct picture of this woman he was speaking about. And I feel like in a very complex way, but still very gentle, if that makes sense. So it's a very interesting song. And back to what Tim was saying, how he likes to embody different things. It would be interesting to see what his perspective on where this song came out of. Do you know what I'm saying, Tim?
Yeah, I have a album of Billy Joel's where it's like an audience with, and I really should listen to it. I've listened to it a long time ago, but he plays bits and pieces of songs on piano and talks about his songs and talks about his favorites and his inspiration and stuff. And it was years ago when I listened to it, and I came across it on the computer the other day. And I think some of the songs that we're talking about this evening are on that album. So I really need to listen to that again to try and get deep into the world of Billy Joel.
She might not have been a supermodel, but she was pretty. I just looked at a
Well,
picture
I'm
of
sure.
her.
I'm sure she was a absolutely fantastic lady and a great manager too.
I was curious to see after I was trying to think about, what he was picturing when he was writing it. So I looked her up, and yeah, she wasn't a bad looking lady either. And apparently she's smart. She was a manager. I think she's still alive, actually. But anyway, all right. And he was married to her from 1973 to 1982.
Okay, which was around the time he got incredibly wealthy.
That makes sense. And now he's currently married to a supermodel, right? Alexis something.
Yeah, probably. He
I know he dated Kathy Lee or something like that at one point too.
I mean, it's what it is, Billy Joel.
Yeah, I think he's currently married to a supermodel too. All right. So this is another one that's one of the top kind of Billy Joel songs. We got about three more left. You will be familiar with this song, Tim. This is You May Be Right.
Yes, another classic Billy Joel song, and a song that, even the casual music listener would know, and one that probably went to number 52 in the US charts.
Probably. So this one actually came from the album of Glass Houses, which is one of the first times we talked about that album. This was released in 1980, and you've probably seen in even if you just watched on YouTube, he's standing in front of a glass house with the jeans on Tim. He's got kind of like an afro. That's what was called Glass Houses, and he's walking across the thing back and forth. So this album cover is very distinct. And another one you could find in thrift stores pretty easily.
Oh, I own a copy of this. I think I've had a couple of copies of this because one of them I had, the booklet had a crease in it, and one of them was, the back was something. So I sort of mothballed them together. It's never a problem to find a copy of Billy Joel's Glass Houses in a thrift shop.
There you go. And then another thing that we have to talk about, if we're going to talk about a Billy Joel album, have a Billy Joel episode, is Garth Brooks. So Garth Brooks talked very heavily about the influence of Billy Joel, and Garth Brooks covered this song. He has a version of You May Be Right. And at one point in time, there's a few different concert series where Billy Joel came out and performed it with him. So, and he said many times, and I think it was Tim's boss who I had a whole conversation with this about, that Garth Brooks attributes some of his songwriting and the way he puts on his shows, like his actual concerts, to Billy Joel.
Yeah, I mean,
he does like that.
Yeah, Garth Brooks has basically taken Billy Joel's career and countrified it.
It's true. And if you look at the songwriting and the things that it comes from, though, it doesn't surprise me, to be completely transparent with you, because it just doesn't surprise me. All right, so we're going to talk about another song from the same album, which Tim has probably heard since he has a copy of it. This is also from Glass Houses, and this is All for Lena. This is the last song on I think the first side. Well, Tim has it on a CD. He doesn't have a vinyl. I don't know why I said it like that.
No, I've slimmed.
I do have this one on vinyl.
Yeah, as you know, I've slimmed my vinyl records right down. I sold loads of them. I've probably got less than 50 now.
Yeah.
But the only vinyl records I will buy from here on in are Brian May records and Van Halen records. And what did I buy recently? The expanded edition of Balance on vinyl.
That's funny. I have this one on. This is one I've had for a while, and I have one of the older copies. I didn't buy it new. I got it on eBay because I do have a love for Billy Joel merch and stuff like that. So this album I do have. This song is very interesting though, because this one's very synthetic heavy, and a lot of them aren't, or synth heavy, not synthetic, Joy. It's not plastic. Synth heavy was the word I was looking for. So, it's kind of like a song about obsession. It's punchy. He's paranoid. And then it has that very 1980s new wave thing. So I think it's kind of interesting. This album came out in 1980. That checks out. And it's a darker song. Some of his music can be incredibly dark, especially some of the album tracks. They're not all punchy, happy-go-lucky songs.
No, he is a man who's probably had many troubles in his life, and then those sort of show themselves in his songwriting.
And for those, my little kind of fun fact about this one or whatever is this was what he says was his early experience with synthesizers, and he was attempting to adapt to the new wave. Even though he does write a song about it's still rock and roll to me. Forget the new wave a little bit later. All right, so my last song and this is called The Great Suburban Showdown. I don't know if you know the song, Tim. It is from Street Life Serenade, which is not one of his major albums from 1974. Have you ever heard this?
No, I mean, I'm familiar with much of the catalogue of Billy Joel, but this is a song I am not familiar with.
I was running out of number one hits, so I didn't want to do Piano Man. So I found this one, and I went back. I was listening through different songs, and this one caught my attention. So it's very kind of slow. It's country tinged. It almost feels like Garth Brooks wrote this song. We were talking about when we were talking about earlier, and it just is a song about going back to your hometown after you've changed, and everything else hasn't. You know that, and it's very cinematic, melancholy in a way. And he's literally telling a story, like we just said. He's went back home and he's like, wow, nothing here has changed.
Absolutely. I'm sure if I went to Hounslow right now, some things would have changed, but essentially nothing would have changed.
It's always so interesting when you do like go back how quickly you notice, even if like the buildings and the names have changed, Tim, you're just still like, it all still kind of feels the same.
Exactly. The last time I was in England was in 2017. I'd been away for 6 years and I landed at Heathrow, looked out the window and I was like, yep, same old, same old.
Now, this was inspired after visiting Long Island, which he was born in the Bronx, but it seems like he grew up most of his life in Long Island. I don't know when he moved there. But he said he went back to visit his old stomping grounds. And yeah, he just had that same feeling me and Tim are talking about. You're like, names have changed, dates have changed, but everything's still the same.
Yeah, and nothing really changed. I mean, you know, sometimes some places you go to get completely redeveloped, but on the whole, you go back to a place that you were from, and it's much the same.
Well, you know, I grew up in Grayson County, which is right beside Galax, which is a city. Yes, it's technically a city, even though it doesn't feel like a city. It is a city in Southwest Virginia, and I will say that it has grown up since I've been there. I mean, they actually have like a Sheetz now and like a GameStop and an Arby's. We didn't have any of that when I was a kid. They have like, you know, modern day things that like, look, I still remember when we got the Supercenter Walmart and I was so excited to go because they had like back when you would get, you know, like you could pick out the lobsters yourself, which is such a morbid thing to do.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful. I've been past restaurants. I mean, I wouldn't eat them anyway. And they're sea spiders, so you shouldn't eat them. But I've been past restaurants in Vegas where that goes on, and it's just awful to see.
They have so did you ever have grocery stores where you could pick the tank, like you could pick yours in the tank?
No, that is a US thing. That was never a UK thing.
I don't know why, and I was a kid, so I never quite. So we had just like what was known as originally just a Walmart Supercenter. It wasn't a 24-hour thing. It was just like a regular Walmart store. That I guess no, a Walmart store, and then we got a Walmart Supercenter. So it was just like a regular grocery store with the name Walmart. Then Walmarts became Supercenters, and they became 24 hours, and they would just have everything, right? Clothes, electronics, blah blah blah. And when I was a kid, the only thing I thought was super cool was you could see the lobsters. And I'd get excited to go to Walmart to see the lobsters. I wasn't eating them. And we lived in Southwest Virginia. My parents weren't feeding me lobster on the regular. We were fine, but I mean, that's just not a normal thing to do. Looking back, I realize how morbid that is because I don't think I ever realized why the lobsters were there.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the YouTube channel Leon the Lobster?
Yes, actually.
You have seen that?
Only think because you mentioned it once before, Tim. I don't think I found that organically.
Yeah, so essentially, it's a guy who saw lobsters in a supermarket and then thought, wouldn't it be great to take one home and rescue it? So he takes one home from the supermarket and then gets a big tank. And then, of course, it became a YouTube thing over the COVID lockdown. And then he got sponsorship and donations. And he's got this huge tank now, you know, the size of the room. And, you know, he maintains a good environment for the lobster. And sadly, Leon died, you know, a year maybe 6 months ago, and he went back to another grocery store and got another lobster, and this one is now called Two. And then we're learning about Two and his journey. And, you know, and apparently this lobster is actually in a lot better condition than Leon ever was. Leon probably wasn't in the best health when he was rescued, but he still looked after Leon for 5 years, I suppose, 6 years.
Well, and the thing about it is, though, is I don't really feel like lobsters are being treated very well in these scenarios. There's no way because they're tiny little tanks, right, Tim? And there'd be like 15 of them on top of each other. It has to be horrible conditions.
It's absolutely. I mean, the thing is, in the wild, a lobster will live for 10 years, 12 years, but they say in captivity, a lobster will potentially live for up to 100 years.
Wow. I mean, crustaceans generally live for a long time, I think. I mean, I'm not a crustacean expert, but that seems right.
Because what happens is that they're vulnerable after they molt.
Yeah.
So that they molt, their skeleton is on the outside, and then they build a new skeleton, and then they expel the old skeleton. So they molt their shells. And the period from when they molt to when the new shell hardens up, it takes a certain number of days or weeks for the shell to fully harden. That is when they're very vulnerable. And at that time, birds and other sea creatures will eat them because they don't have any natural defenses. And that's why in the wild, they never last as long as they do in captivity. In captivity, they said they can last for decades and decades because they don't have those predators after them when they're in that very vulnerable state.
I mean, that makes sense. I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into lobsters, but yeah, now I feel bad as a kid, but I didn't know. I just thought it was the cool news store. I was like, you know what I mean? 6, 7, 10. I just thought it was the cool news store that was big and it had everything. And I like to look at the lobsters in the tank.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you saw it with childlike eyes and you didn't work out the reality of that.
I don't think I ever saw anybody being like, give me that one.
Yeah, it's just...
Also, like I just couldn't bring myself to cook something from life to death. I can't do that.
No.
I just can't do that.
And plus, why would you want to eat that? It's a sea spider. Leave it in the sea.
Well, that's me and Tim's PSA for you guys. Leave it in the sea. All right. What would you like to leave the people with?
I would like a safety PSA to leave the episode.
Okay.
If you have a dryer in your house, or a tumble dryer, as we call them in England, and on a Sunday morning, you go to use it, and it starts making an incredibly loud banging sound as it turns, and then you can smell an electrical burning smell come out of it.
Don't use that.
Unplug it, turn it off, and then order a replacement from Lowe's. Don't attempt to fix it.
That seems very, very logical, Tim. Dryers are like one of the most dangerous things to cause house fires, too.
Absolutely. So that's exactly what happened to ours. And for 1 millisecond, I thought, well, maybe I can take the back off and see what's going on with this. And I thought, no, they are so dangerous. It's 7 years old. Let's buy another one.
Just move on with our lives. All right. Well, what a good PSA. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.